The world is full of mysteries, and some of the most intriguing are those surrounding people who vanish without a trace. These disappearances defy logic, challenge investigators, and leave loved ones grasping for answers. What really happened to these individuals? Where did they go? And why do these cases haunt us? Years, or even decades later. Welcome to the Mystery Law Archive. A big thank you to all our wonderful viewers and subscribers for tuning in to our videos. We are committed to bringing you more engaging and informative content that will entertain, educate, and intrigue you. Your feedback is invaluable to us, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can improve and better serve you. Thank you again for your support, and we look forward to sharing more fascinating mysteries and stories with you. Number 1. Thomas Severn. Thomas Severn, a respected undermanager at the Mapley Colliery in Derbyshire, England, was known for his unyielding dedication to his work. His life revolved around the coal mines, a dangerous yet vital part of the early 20th century British economy. On June 5, 1918, Severn arrived at the colliery as he had countless times before. The day seemed uneventful, just another routine shift underground. Around noon, he was seen entering a slip road deep within the mine. He exchanged a few words with a colleague, checked his watch, and continued walking into the darkness. But from that moment on, Thomas Severn was never seen again. When he failed to surface at the end of the shift, the alarm was raised. Teams of miners began scouring the labyrinthine tunnels, shouting his name and searching for any sign of him. Hours turned into days, and as exhaustion set in, so did the grim reality. Thomas Severn had vanished. Authorities and miners alike were baffled. The mine was searched extensively, yet no trace of Severn was ever found. There were no signs of a cave-in, no evidence of an accident, and no personal belongings left behind. Speculation ran rampant. Could he have fallen into an unmarked shaft? Or was it possible that he had been the victim of foul play? While these theories circulated, some proposed that Severn may have intentionally disappeared. But why? By all accounts, he had no financial troubles, no known enemies, and no reason to abandon his life. As weeks turned into months, the disappearance of Thomas Severn became a fixture of local law. Families in the community shared stories of ghostly apparitions in the mines, claiming to hear faint voices calling out for help. These tales, whether real or imagined, only deepened the mystery surrounding Severn's fate. In recent years, historians have revisited the case, combing through records and testimonies in search of new insights. But despite advancements in forensic technology, the mystery remains unsolved. The story of Thomas Severn is not just a tale of a man lost to history. It is a reminder of the fragility of life and the unanswered questions that sometimes define it. Number 2. Joan Risch. Joan Carolyn Risch's story is one of the most baffling and unsettling disappearances in modern American history. A seemingly ordinary housewife from Lincoln, Massachusetts, Joan vanished on October 24, 1961, leaving behind a trail of evidence that raised more questions than answers. That morning, Joan, a 31-year-old mother of two, appeared to go about her day as usual. Her husband, Martin Risch, had left for a business trip, leaving Joan to care for their 4-year-old daughter, Lillian, and 2-year-old son, David. Around midday, she took her daughter to a neighbor's house and mentioned she had errands to run. Joan then returned home, but by 2:15 p.m., things began to spiral into an eerie mystery. The neighbors reported seeing a strange sight. Lillian stood crying in the driveway, calling out for her mother. When the neighbors investigated, they found a bizarre and unsettling scene. Joan was nowhere to be found, but the inside of the house told a troubling story. Bloodstains streaked the kitchen walls and floor, leading to a trail that extended out to the driveway. A phone handset dangled ominously off the hook. Closer inspection revealed that Joan's blood type matched the stains, but the pattern suggested it wasn't a life-threatening amount of blood loss. Yet Joan had disappeared entirely. Adding to the mystery was the discovery of an empty liquor bottle and bloodied paper towels in the trash. Strangely, Joan's purse, keys, and other personal items were missing, as though she had taken them with her when she left. Witnesses later claimed they saw a disoriented woman, fitting Joan's description, walking along a nearby highway, clutching her stomach, but she was never found. Investigators were stumped. Theories began to emerge, but none could fully explain what happened to Joan Risch. Some believed she had been abducted, perhaps by someone who gained entry to the house. Others speculated that she staged her own disappearance to escape her life. What added fuel to the speculation was a discovery made years after her disappearance. Joan had borrowed a series of crime novels from the local library, many of which depicted women vanishing under mysterious circumstances. Could she have been inspired by these stories? Or was it merely a coincidence? Another chilling theory involved Joan's past. As a child, she had been orphaned when her parents died in a suspicious fire. Could her traumatic past have been linked to her disappearance? Or did she suffer a mental health crisis, leading her to flee into the unknown? Despite extensive searches and a media frenzy, no concrete evidence of Joan's fate ever surfaced. Her family eventually moved on, but the case remained open. To this day, Joan Risch's disappearance is studied by true crime enthusiasts and investigators alike, a haunting reminder of how a person can seemingly vanish into thin air. Number 3. Dorothy Jane Scott. Dorothy Jane Scott was a 32-year-old single mother from Stanton, California, who worked as a secretary at a joint-owned business that specialized in psychedelic paraphernalia and gift items. She was a quiet, responsible woman, devoted to her young son, Sean, and largely kept to herself. But in 1980, Dorothy's life took a chilling turn, culminating in one of the most mysterious disappearances in modern history. Months before her disappearance, Dorothy began receiving disturbing phone calls at her home. The caller, whose voice she recognized but couldn't identify, alternated between professing his love for her and threatening her life. In one instance, he told Dorothy he'd been watching her every move and could recount her day's activities in eerie detail. In another, he chillingly said, "When I get you alone, I will cut you into bits so no one will ever find you." Dorothy confided in her parents, Jacob and Vera Scott, about the calls and expressed growing fear for her safety. She even considered purchasing a handgun, but ultimately decided against it. The threats escalated, but Dorothy never imagined how far the mysterious caller would go. On May 28, 1980, Dorothy dropped her son off at her parents' home and headed to work. That evening, she accompanied two co-workers, Conrad Bostrom and Pam Head, to the emergency room after Conrad developed a serious rash. While waiting for him to be treated, Dorothy stepped outside briefly to retrieve her car and offered to bring it to the front of the hospital. Pam and Conrad waited at the entrance, but Dorothy never returned. When they went to the parking lot to look for her, they saw her car speeding toward them. The headlights were blinding, and the car veered past them at an alarming speed. Panicked, they assumed Dorothy was in trouble and being chased. They reported her missing when hours passed without word from her. The following day, Dorothy's car was found abandoned and engulfed in flames in an alley about 10 miles from the hospital. There was no sign of Dorothy, and investigators were left with little to go on. Was this an abduction? A premeditated act by her stalker? Or something else entirely? The mystery deepened when her parents began receiving phone calls from a man who claimed to have Dorothy. The caller would taunt them, saying, "I've got her," or "I killed her." The calls always came when Vera was home alone and stopped abruptly if Jacob answered the phone. Police traced the calls but were unable to pinpoint their origin. For 4 years, Dorothy's fate remained unknown. Then, in August 1984, a construction worker discovered human remains and a dog's skeleton in a remote area of Anaheim Hills. Dental records confirmed that the remains belonged to Dorothy Jane Scott. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, her cause of death could not be determined. Even after this grim discovery, the identity of her killer remains a mystery. The phone calls to her parents stopped shortly after the remains were identified, leading many to believe the killer had been taunting them all along. To this day, Dorothy's case remains unsolved. Was her stalker the man who ultimately killed her? If so, how did he elude capture? Or was her abduction and murder the work of someone completely unrelated to the phone calls? Number 4. Bryce Laspisa. Bryce Laspisa was a charismatic 19-year-old college student whose mysterious disappearance in 2013 has left investigators and his loved ones searching for answers. His story is both perplexing and heartbreaking, filled with unusual behavior, baffling decisions, and an unsettling vanishing act that has yet to be solved. Bryce, originally from Illinois, was attending Sierra College in Rocklin, California, and studying graphic design. He was described as friendly, outgoing, and deeply loved by his friends and family. At the time of his disappearance, Bryce had recently started his sophomore year, and while things appeared normal on the surface, cracks began to form in his life that would lead to his unsettling final days. In the weeks leading up to his disappearance, Bryce began exhibiting unusual behavior. He started drinking heavily, sometimes consuming hard liquor in concerning amounts. He also began taking a prescription drug, Vyvanse, reportedly to help him stay awake and focused, though it may have had adverse effects on his mental state. On August 27, 2013, Bryce abruptly broke up with his girlfriend, Kim Sly, despite her attempts to understand why. He also gave away some of his prized possessions, including a pair of diamond earrings that his mother had gifted him. These actions alarmed those close to him, as they seemed completely out of character. On the evening of August 28th, Bryce made a strange 90-mile drive south to his parents' home in Laguna Niguel, California, but never arrived. Instead, he spent hours parked near the Castaic Lake area, making cryptic calls to his parents and others, but refusing to explain what he was doing. At one point, Bryce contacted a roadside assistance service after running out of gas. The tow truck driver who helped him later described Bryce as calm but oddly hesitant to proceed to his destination. He called his parents again, assuring them he was fine and on his way. But his journey took an unexpected turn. In the early hours of August 30th, Bryce's car was discovered abandoned near Castaic Lake. The vehicle had gone down an embankment, landing on its side. Inside the car were Bryce's wallet, phone, and laptop, along with a bloodstain on the passenger seat. However, there was no sign of Bryce himself. Search teams combed the area for weeks, utilizing helicopters, K-9 units, and divers to scour the lake and surrounding wilderness. Despite their efforts, no trace of Bryce was found. The absence of clear evidence only deepened the mystery. Bryce's family and investigators have struggled to piece together what happened. Some theorize that Bryce may have intended to take his own life, but survived the crash and wandered into the wilderness, succumbing to the elements. Others speculate that he may have intentionally disappeared to start a new life, though this seems unlikely given his close ties to his family. There's also the possibility of foul play, as the area around Castaic Lake is rugged and remote, raising questions about whether someone else might have been involved in his disappearance. Number 5. Andrew Gosden. Andrew Gosden was a bright, introverted 14-year-old from Doncaster, England, whose mysterious disappearance in September 2007 has left his family and investigators searching for answers for over a decade. His case is one of the UK's most puzzling missing person stories, filled with unexplained choices and a lack of solid leads. On the morning of September 14th, 2007, Andrew left his home as usual, dressed in his school uniform and carrying his bag. His parents, Kevin and Glenys Gosden, assumed he was heading to school. However, instead of attending classes, Andrew walked to a nearby park and waited for local shops to open. Around 9:15 a.m., he withdrew $200 from his bank account at an ATM. He then returned home briefly, changed out of his uniform into casual clothes, and left again, leaving his school bag behind. From there, Andrew made his way to Doncaster railway station, where he purchased a one-way ticket to London. Despite being offered a return ticket for just a small additional cost. Surveillance cameras captured him at King's Cross Station in London around 11:25 a.m. That was the last confirmed sighting of Andrew Gosden. When Andrew failed to return home that evening, his parents became concerned. By the next morning, they reported him missing. Police initially believed Andrew had run away, as there were no signs of foul play or abduction. However, his family insisted this was out of character for the quiet teenager who preferred spending his time at home, playing video games and reading. The investigation uncovered that Andrew had taken no extra clothes, passport, or mobile phone with him. His bank account remained untouched after the $200 withdrawal, further deepening the mystery. If he had planned to run away, he appeared woefully unprepared. Over the years, numerous theories have emerged about Andrew's disappearance. Some believe he may have been lured to London by someone he met online. However, his family insists he rarely used the internet and had no known online profiles. Another theory is that Andrew may have attended a concert or event in London. He was a fan of progressive rock music and one of his favorite bands, 30 Seconds to Mars, was performing in the city that evening. However, no evidence has surfaced linking him to the event. There's also the possibility that Andrew met with foul play after arriving in London. King's Cross Station, a bustling transport hub, is known for attracting a wide range of people, some of whom might prey on vulnerable individuals. Andrew's disappearance has taken a tremendous toll on his family, who continue to search for answers. His father, Kevin, has made countless public appeals for information, even offering financial rewards for credible leads. Despite their efforts, no definitive information about Andrew's fate has ever surfaced. In 2021, police conducted a new search of a property in South London following a tip-off, but it yielded no significant breakthroughs. The case remains open, and Andrew's parents hold on to hope that he might still be alive. The disappearance of Andrew Gosden remains an agonizing puzzle. How could a teenager vanish so completely in a city as heavily monitored as London? What prompted his sudden decision to travel there? And why has no concrete evidence of his movements surfaced since? Number 6. Tammy Lynn Leppert. Tammy Lynn Leppert was a promising young model and actress whose sudden and unexplained disappearance in 1983 has captivated investigators and true crime enthusiasts for decades. Her case is marked by cryptic warnings, erratic behavior, and the haunting question: what happened to Tammy Lynn? Tammy Lynn Leppert grew up in Rockledge, Florida, and began her career as a beauty queen at a young age. By her teens, she had participated in more than 300 beauty contests and transitioned into modeling and acting. She landed roles in films like Scarface and Spring Break, and her striking appearance promised a bright future in Hollywood. However, behind the glamour, Tammy's life was far from perfect. Friends and family began noticing subtle changes in her demeanor in the months leading up to her disappearance, changes that would later become deeply troubling. In the summer of 1983, Tammy attended a weekend party that seemed to change her forever. According to her mother, Linda Curtis, Tammy returned from the gathering shaken and paranoid, but she refused to explain what had happened. From that point on, Tammy appeared convinced that someone was trying to harm her. She stopped eating and grew suspicious of those around her. During the filming of Scarface, Tammy reportedly had an emotional breakdown and had to leave the set. Her mother described her behavior as increasingly erratic, with Tammy expressing fears that someone was following her. In July 1983, Tammy confided in a friend, stating, "If I die, it's not going to be an accident." Her cryptic statement only added to the mystery surrounding her eventual disappearance. On July 6, 1983, Tammy left her home with a male friend, reportedly to visit Cocoa Beach. She never returned. The friend claimed he dropped Tammy off near a local convenience store, but she was never seen again. Authorities were skeptical of his account, but found no evidence linking him to her disappearance. With no concrete leads or signs of foul play, the case went cold. Over the years, numerous theories have been proposed about what might have happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert. Some believe she fell victim to foul play, possibly by someone she knew. Her fears of being followed and her cryptic warnings lend credence to this theory. Others speculate that Tammy may have been involved in dangerous circumstances at the party she attended months earlier. Did she witness something she wasn't meant to see? Was her paranoia a result of a traumatic event that led her to believe her life was in danger? There is also the possibility that Tammy left voluntarily, though this seems unlikely, given her rising career and close ties to her family. Her mother maintained that Tammy would never have disappeared without contacting her loved ones. Tammy's case remains open, with no definitive answers about her fate. Her family continues to hope for closure, but as decades pass, the likelihood of solving the mystery diminishes. Her story serves as a chilling reminder of how fragile even the most promising lives can be. Tammy Lynn Leppert's disappearance leaves behind more questions than answers. Was she a victim of a calculated act, or did her fears and erratic behavior play a role in her vanishing? Number 7. Ray Gricar. Ray Gricar, a well-respected district attorney for Center County, Pennsylvania, vanished under mysterious circumstances in April 2005. His disappearance has baffled investigators and sparked countless theories, but the truth of what happened to him remains elusive. On April 15th, 2005, Ray Gricar, 59, told his girlfriend, Patty Fonicola, that he planned to take the day off and go for a drive. This wasn't unusual. Ray often enjoyed leisurely drives to clear his mind. That morning, he left their home in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, in his red Mini Cooper and headed out. When Ray failed to return that evening, Patty grew concerned. She called his cell phone multiple times, but there was no answer. The next day, after still not hearing from him, she reported him missing. 2 days later, Ray's Mini Cooper was found abandoned in a parking lot near an antique store in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, about 50 miles from his home. The car appeared undisturbed, with no signs of struggle or foul play. Inside the vehicle, police found Ray's phone, but not his wallet, keys, or laptop. The car's location raised questions. Why had Ray driven to Lewisburg, and what had he been doing there? Witnesses reported seeing his car parked in the lot the day he vanished, but no one saw Ray himself. Several months after Ray's disappearance, fishermen discovered his laptop submerged in the Susquehanna River, not far from where his car had been found. However, the laptop's hard drive was missing. The hard drive was later recovered in the same area, but was so damaged that no data could be retrieved. This discovery led to speculation that someone deliberately destroyed the hard drive to erase sensitive information. But what kind of information could have been so damaging? And who would have wanted it destroyed? Ray's role as a district attorney made him a powerful figure, and some theories suggest his disappearance was linked to his work. In the years leading up to his vanishing, Ray had been involved in several high-profile cases, including controversial decisions not to prosecute certain individuals. Did his work make him a target? Another theory is that Ray may have chosen to disappear voluntarily. He had expressed dissatisfaction with his job and was nearing retirement. Could he have decided to start a new life, leaving behind his career and the pressures that came with it? Supporters of this theory point to the lack of evidence of foul play and the fact that Ray's wallet and keys were missing, suggesting he may have taken them intentionally. A more sinister possibility is that Ray met with foul play unrelated to his work. The remote location of his car and the mysterious destruction of his laptop hard drive raised troubling questions about whether someone wanted to ensure that Ray's fate would remain a mystery. Ray's disappearance has taken a heavy toll on his family and friends. His daughter, Lara, has spoken publicly about the pain of not knowing what happened to her father. Despite their grief, his family has continued to advocate for answers, keeping his case in the public eye. Nearly 2 decades later, Ray Gricar's disappearance remains one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in Pennsylvania. The absence of concrete evidence has left investigators with a series of tantalizing clues but no definitive answers. Whether Ray chose to vanish, met with foul play, or succumbed to an accident, his story endures as a haunting reminder of how even those in positions of power can disappear without a trace. Number 8. Marjorie West. Marjorie West was a lively 4-year-old girl from Bradford, Pennsylvania, whose disappearance in May 1938 remains one of the oldest and most haunting missing persons cases in American history. The story of her vanishing has puzzled generations, as it seems almost impossible for a child to disappear so completely. It was Mother's Day, May 8, 1938, when the West family decided to spend the afternoon picnicking in the scenic Allegheny Forest, just a few miles outside their hometown. Marjorie, along with her older sister, Dorothea, and parents, Shirley and Cecilia West, enjoyed a day of relaxation and family bonding. After lunch, Marjorie and Dorothea wandered a short distance from their parents to pick wildflowers, a seemingly innocent activity. Shirley and Cecilia could still see the girls from where they sat and felt no concern. At some point, Dorothea left Marjorie briefly to return to their parents. When she came back, her little sister was gone. Panic quickly set in as the family began searching the area, calling out Marjorie's name and scouring the surrounding woods. Within hours, neighbors and local residents joined the effort, and soon after, law enforcement arrived with search dogs and additional manpower. The search spanned days, with hundreds of volunteers combing through the dense forest and nearby areas. Despite their efforts, there was no sign of Marjorie, no clothing, no footprints, and no clues to suggest where she might have gone. Marjorie's disappearance led to widespread speculation, much of which remains debated to this day. Some believed she had simply wandered too far into the woods, becoming lost and unable to find her way back. However, the search efforts were so extensive that this seemed increasingly unlikely. Others suggested that Marjorie may have been abducted. The remote picnic site, while isolated, was accessible by road. Could someone have taken her slipping away unnoticed in the commotion of the initial search? Witnesses reported seeing a suspicious vehicle in the area that day, but no definitive link was ever established. Another theory is that Marjorie may have fallen victim to an animal attack. The Allegheny Forest was home to bears and other wildlife, raising the possibility that she encountered danger during the brief moment she was alone. However, this theory also fails to explain the complete absence of evidence. One of the most intriguing elements of Marjorie's case came years later, when a woman in another state reported encountering someone who resembled Marjorie as an adult. The woman claimed she had an unusual birthmark on her left hand, just like Marjorie. However, attempts to follow up on this lead yielded no conclusive evidence. Over the decades, psychics and amateur investigators have offered various theories, but none have brought the family closer to answers. Marjorie's disappearance devastated her family, particularly her parents, who spent the rest of their lives searching for answers. Her story has remained a source of heartbreak for the town of Bradford, which continues to remember her as one of their own. Marjorie West's disappearance is a case that lingers in the public imagination because of its simplicity and its heartbreaking lack of resolution. How could a child vanish so completely in such a short span of time? What happened in those fleeting moments when her sister turned her back? Number 9. Caitlin Akins. Caitlin Akins was a vibrant 19-year-old with big dreams of becoming a cosmetologist. Her life was full of possibilities when she suddenly vanished on December 5, 2015, in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. Caitlin's disappearance is a chilling tale of unanswered questions and puzzling circumstances. Caitlin had returned to her hometown in Virginia to visit her family after moving to Arizona, where she lived with her fiancée Amber. She was close to her family, especially her mother, Lisa Sullivan, and her stepfather. The trip was supposed to be a brief but joyful reunion before she returned to Arizona to continue her studies. On the day of her disappearance, Caitlin's stepfather, James Branton, was scheduled to drive her to the airport for her flight back to Arizona. However, Caitlin never boarded her flight, and the events that unfolded left investigators with more questions than answers. According to Branton, he dropped Caitlin off at the Springfield metro station, roughly an hour from their home, instead of driving her directly to the airport. He claimed she had planned to take the train to Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. Surveillance footage, however, did not capture Caitlin at either the metro station or the airport. Later that day, Caitlin's mother received an unsettling text message from Caitlin's phone, stating that she had arrived safely at the airport. This message was followed by another, claiming she had decided to stay in Virginia for a while. Both messages struck her family as odd and uncharacteristic of Caitlin. The confusion deepened when Caitlin's luggage was discovered in a drainage ditch off a rural road in Spotsylvania County. The bag contained her wallet, phone charger, and identification, but her phone and plane ticket were missing. Caitlin's disappearance has left investigators and her family grappling with a series of baffling possibilities. Some have speculated that foul play was involved, potentially at the hands of someone she knew. Branton, the last person confirmed to have seen her, has faced scrutiny, but no charges have been filed against him, and he denies any involvement. Others have considered the possibility that Caitlin may have chosen to disappear voluntarily. However, her family insists she had no reason to run away. She was excited about her future in Arizona and deeply committed to her relationships. A chilling possibility is that Caitlin may have encountered someone with harmful intentions after being dropped off. The rural location where her luggage was found suggests she may never have made it to the metro station at all. Caitlin's mother, Lisa Sullivan, has been relentless in her search for answers. She has organized vigils, worked with law enforcement, and shared Caitlin's story with the media in the hope of keeping the case alive. Despite the lack of significant leads, Lisa refuses to give up on finding her daughter. The investigation into Caitlin Akins' disappearance remains active, though progress has been slow. Her case highlights the challenges of solving missing persons cases where evidence is scarce and timelines are unclear. What do you think happened to Caitlin Akins that day in December 2015? Why was her luggage abandoned? And who sent the text from her phone? Number 10. Dr. James McGrogan. Dr. James McGrogan was an accomplished 39-year-old emergency room physician from Indiana with a passion for the outdoors. In March 2014, a hiking trip in the rugged Colorado wilderness turned into a baffling tragedy that left his friends, family, and investigators with more questions than answers. On March 14, 2014, Dr. McGrogan and 3 friends set out on a hiking and backcountry skiing trip near Vail, Colorado. Their destination was the Eiserman Hut, a remote cabin accessible only by a challenging trail through the snowy wilderness. The group was well prepared, carrying GPS devices, cell phones, and ample supplies for their journey. James, an experienced outdoorsman, was enthusiastic about the trip. He carried a heavy backpack filled with food, water, and extra layers of clothing. During the hike, James moved ahead of his group, eager to reach the hut first. His friends assumed they would meet up with him later along the trail, but when they arrived at the hut, James wasn't there, and he hadn't been seen since he left them. Alarmed by his absence, James's friends contacted authorities, and a massive search and rescue operation was launched. Teams scoured the area on foot, with snowmobiles and from the air. The rugged terrain, freezing temperatures, and heavy snowfall made the search incredibly challenging. Despite their efforts, days turned into weeks with no sign of James. The vast wilderness seemed to have swallowed him whole. More than 2 weeks later, on April 3, 2014, searchers found James's body in a remote area more than 4 miles from the trail he was supposed to follow. His body was located at the bottom of a steep ice chute, surrounded by jagged rocks. What made the discovery even more perplexing was that James was found wearing minimal clothing. Despite having packed multiple layers for the trip, his GPS, phone, and other equipment were missing, and there were no clear signs of an avalanche or other natural disaster that might explain how he ended up so far off course. The circumstances surrounding James's death have led to numerous theories, but none provide a definitive answer. One possibility is that he became disoriented and succumbed to hypothermia, a condition that can cause confusion and paradoxical undressing, where individuals shed layers of clothing despite freezing conditions. However, his extensive experience in the outdoors makes this seem less likely. Another theory is that James may have been injured while trying to navigate the rugged terrain, leading to his tragic death. The steep ice chute where his body was found suggests he may have fallen, but why he was so far from the trail remains unclear. Foul play has also been considered, though there is no evidence to support this theory. James's friends were cooperative with investigators, and no signs of a struggle were found at the scene. Dr. James McGrogan's disappearance and death continue to baffle those who knew him and the investigators who worked on his case. How could an experienced hiker with ample supplies and navigation equipment end up so far off course? What happened in those critical hours after he separated from his group? James's story is a sobering reminder of the unpredictability of the wilderness. Even the most prepared and experienced individuals can face unforeseen dangers when venturing into remote areas. Number 11. Antoinette Cayedito. Antoinette Cayedito was a bright and spirited 9-year-old girl from Gallup, New Mexico, whose disappearance in April 1986 remains one of the most haunting and mysterious missing persons cases in U.S. history. The strange circumstances and chilling details of her case have kept investigators and the public captivated for decades. On the night of April 5, 1986, Antoinette was at home with her mother, Penny, and her younger sisters. They lived in a modest neighborhood, and the family was known to be close-knit. That evening, the children stayed up late while Penny went to bed early. At some point during the night, Antoinette disappeared. Penny initially believed her daughter had wandered off or gone to a neighbor's house. But as the hours passed, panic set in. By the next morning, Penny contacted the police to report her missing. Antoinette's younger sister later revealed a chilling detail that became central to the investigation. She recalled hearing a knock on the door late that night. When Antoinette opened it, she saw a man who identified himself as Uncle Joe. Without hesitation, she stepped outside, and she was never seen again. The name Uncle Joe didn't match anyone the family knew, raising questions about whether the man had used a familiar name to gain Antoinette's trust. This detail suggested she had been abducted, but the identity of the man remained unknown. A year after Antoinette's disappearance, Penny received a disturbing phone call. A girl, claiming to be Antoinette, said, "Mom, it's me. I'm in Albuquerque." Before Penny could respond, an unknown man was heard in the background saying, "Who told you you could use the phone?" The call was abruptly cut off. The phone call provided a glimmer of hope, but also deepened the mystery. Investigators traced the call to a payphone in Albuquerque, but no further leads were found. Several theories have been proposed over the years, but none have led to definitive answers. One possibility is that Antoinette was abducted by someone she knew, possibly a family acquaintance or neighbor. The use of the name Uncle Joe and the apparent ease with which she left the house suggest a level of familiarity. Another theory is that Antoinette was targeted by human traffickers. Gallup is located near major highways, making it a potential hotspot for such activity. Her case has similarities to others involving young girls who were abducted and never found. There's also the possibility that she was taken by a stranger who had been watching the family. This theory is supported by the phone call from Albuquerque, which implies she was held captive for at least some time after her disappearance. Antoinette's disappearance devastated her family, particularly her mother, Penny, who remained haunted by the unanswered questions until her death in 1999. Despite her grief, Penny tirelessly advocated for her daughter's case, keeping it in the public eye for years. Antoinette's younger sisters have also spoken publicly about the impact of her disappearance, describing the lasting pain and the hope that one day the truth will emerge. More than 3 decades later, the disappearance of Antoinette Gallardito remains an open case. Her story is a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly a life can change and how important it is to remain vigilant in the search for missing children. Number 12. August Reiger. August Reiger, an academically gifted 18-year-old from Oklahoma, disappeared under baffling circumstances while vacationing with his family in Ecuador in June 2013. His case is a puzzling enigma, marked by conflicting clues and unanswered questions. In June 2013, August Ragir was celebrating his recent high school graduation with a trip to Ecuador, a country known for its stunning landscapes and vibrant culture. Accompanied by his parents and younger brother, August appeared to be enjoying the vacation, which included hiking and exploring local attractions. The family was staying at a guest house in Baños, a picturesque town nestled in the Andes Mountains, popular among tourists for its hot springs and breathtaking views. On the morning of June 16th, Father's Day, the family planned to take a short hike up a nearby trail to admire the panoramic vistas. During the hike, August suddenly decided to walk ahead of the group, a decision that seemed routine at the time. His parents assumed they would meet him at the top of the trail. However, when they reached the summit, August was nowhere to be seen. Panicked, the family retraced their steps, calling out his name and searching the surrounding area. Despite their efforts, there was no sign of August. Local authorities were alerted, and a large-scale search operation was launched involving police, volunteers, and even helicopters. The search yielded no significant leads, leaving investigators and the family bewildered. There were no signs of a struggle or an accident, and August had been wearing bright clothing that should have made him easy to spot. The trail was well marked, making it unlikely that he got lost. One theory suggested that August might have wandered off the trail and encountered someone with malicious intent. Another posited that he fell victim to an accident in the rugged terrain, but no physical evidence supported this. Adding to the mystery, Baños is a bustling tourist destination, raising questions about how someone could vanish without a trace in such a frequented area. Several theories have been explored in the years since August's disappearance. One possibility is that he was abducted, either for ransom or other motives. Ecuador has a history of occasional kidnappings, though such incidents are rare in tourist areas like Baños. Another theory is that August may have voluntarily disappeared, though his family insists this would be entirely out of character. He was excited about starting college at the University of Oklahoma and had no known personal or mental health struggles that might explain such a decision. The terrain around Baños is treacherous in places, leading some to believe he may have fallen into a hidden crevice or ravine. However, extensive searches of the area found no trace of him, making this theory less likely. August's disappearance devastated his family, who have tirelessly worked to keep his case in the public eye. They have traveled back to Ecuador multiple times, spoken with local authorities, and engaged the media to raise awareness about his case. His parents have described the emotional toll of not knowing what happened to their son, expressing both hope and frustration as the years pass without answers. As of today, the case of August Ragir remains unsolved. Despite the passage of time, his family continues to advocate for more investigations and the possibility of new leads. His disappearance serves as a haunting reminder of how even the most routine activities can take an unexpected turn. Number 13. Rachel Pratt. Rachel Pratt, a 15-year-old girl from Garden City, Kansas, vanished on January 16, 1995. under circumstances that have left her family and law enforcement searching for answers for nearly 3 decades. Her case is marked by unanswered questions, mysterious clues, and enduring heartbreak. Rachel was a responsible and studious high school sophomore who excelled in her academics and had dreams of a bright future. At the time of her disappearance, Rachel was dating an older man, a relationship that concerned her family and friends. Despite her otherwise grounded personality, this connection added complexity to her story. On January 15th, 1995, Rachel attended church with her family and later spent time at home, as was her usual routine. The next day, January 16th, her family awoke to find her missing. There were no signs of a struggle or forced entry, and it appeared that Rachel had left willingly, taking only a few belongings with her. Law enforcement quickly began investigating Rachel's disappearance, interviewing friends, family, and neighbors. One of the most immediate leads centered on her older boyfriend, who was believed to be the last person to have seen her. However, his involvement in her disappearance has never been confirmed, and no charges have been filed against him. Witnesses reported seeing Rachel near a bus station on the day she disappeared, leading to speculation that she may have left town. However, there was no evidence to confirm whether she had boarded a bus or where she might have gone. Over the years, several theories have emerged about Rachel's disappearance. One possibility is that she ran away voluntarily, perhaps to escape the challenges of her relationship or personal pressures. However, her family maintains that Rachel would not have left without maintaining contact, especially given her close bond with her younger siblings. Another theory is that Rachel may have been abducted. If she left willingly with someone she trusted, it's possible that the situation took a dark turn. This theory has gained traction, given the lack of contact or evidence suggesting she began a new life elsewhere. Human trafficking has also been considered, as Kansas is a state with major highways that could facilitate such crimes. However, no direct evidence has linked Rachel's case to trafficking. Rachel's disappearance devastated her family, who have spent decades advocating for her case and keeping her memory alive. Her parents, siblings, and extended family have held vigils, distributed flyers, and worked with organizations dedicated to finding missing children. The emotional toll of Rachel's absence has been profound. Her siblings, in particular, have spoken about the enduring pain of growing up without answers about what happened to their sister. Despite the efforts of law enforcement and her family, Rachel Pratt's case remains unsolved. There have been no confirmed sightings or communications from her since the day she disappeared. Her story continues to be a source of anguish for her loved ones and a haunting mystery for the community of Garden City. Number 14. Elizabeth Campbell. Elizabeth Campbell, a bright and ambitious 20-year-old college student from Lampasas, Texas, disappeared under mysterious circumstances on April 25, 1988. Her case remains one of Texas' most perplexing unsolved mysteries, marked by puzzling clues and an enduring absence of answers. On the evening of April 25th, Elizabeth had an argument with her boyfriend, Ricky Ray Carter, at a restaurant in Killeen, Texas. She decided to leave and make her way back to her home in Lampasas, about 30 miles away. Ricky later told authorities that Elizabeth intended to call her parents for a ride, but ultimately walked away on foot. Witnesses reported seeing Elizabeth near a 7-Eleven convenience store in Killeen around midnight, attempting to use a payphone. This was the last confirmed sighting of her. She never made it home, and by morning, her family was frantic, reporting her disappearance to the police. The initial investigation revealed little. Elizabeth's belongings, including her purse and ID, were left behind, suggesting she did not plan to disappear voluntarily. Witnesses who saw her at the convenience store recalled that she appeared calm, and there were no indications of distress at the time. A significant clue came weeks later when Elizabeth's purse was discovered in the parking lot of a nearby post office. Strangely, it had been placed in plain view, leading investigators to believe it was intentionally left there by someone connected to her disappearance. Elizabeth's case has given rise to several theories, each as unsettling as the last. One possibility is that she was abducted by someone she encountered that night. The area where she disappeared was near major highways, which could have facilitated her being taken far from the scene quickly. Another theory is that Elizabeth fell victim to foul play from someone she knew. However, no evidence has directly implicated anyone close to her, and investigators have emphasized that all possibilities remain open. There have also been reports of possible sightings of Elizabeth in various parts of Texas over the years. In one instance, a woman resembling her was seen at a convenience store, accompanied by a man who appeared controlling. These sightings have never been confirmed, leaving her family to wonder if she might have been forced into an unknown situation. Elizabeth's disappearance has left her family in an agonizing state of uncertainty. Her parents, Louise and Lloyd Campbell, have spent decades advocating for answers, working with law enforcement, and distributing her missing person posters across the country. They have spoken publicly about the pain of not knowing what happened to their daughter and the hope that one day they might find closure. Despite advancements in forensic science and the passage of time, Elizabeth Campbell's case remains unsolved. Investigators continue to follow leads, though no significant breakthroughs have been made. Number 15. Brenda Heist. Brenda Heist, a devoted mother of two from Lititz, Pennsylvania, vanished without explanation on February 8, 2002. Her sudden disappearance left her family devastated and raised countless questions that would go unanswered for more than a decade. On the day she disappeared, Brenda was finalizing plans to secure a new home for herself and her children following a difficult divorce. She had applied for housing assistance and spent the morning at her children's school, discussing plans for their future. Later that day, Brenda was supposed to meet her ex-husband, Lee Heist, to discuss financial matters related to their divorce. However, she never showed up. When Lee returned home that evening, he found her car parked outside, but no sign of Brenda inside the house. Brenda's disappearance baffled everyone who knew her. She had left behind her purse, ID, and credit cards, and there were no signs of a struggle or foul play. Her children, ages 8 and 12 at the time, were left confused and heartbroken. Police launched an extensive investigation, interviewing friends, family, and co-workers. Flyers were distributed, and her case received media coverage. Despite their efforts, no significant leads emerged, and Brenda's case eventually went cold. In 2013, more than 11 years after she disappeared, Brenda's case took an unexpected turn. She resurfaced in Florida, where she revealed to police that she had left her life in Pennsylvania voluntarily. Brenda explained that on the day of her disappearance, she had felt overwhelmed and unable to cope with her circumstances. While sitting in a park, she encountered a group of strangers who invited her to join them on a road trip to Florida. And she accepted. For more than a decade, Brenda lived as a transient in Florida, working odd jobs and staying under the radar. She claimed she had lived on the streets, in shelters, and with people she met along the way. She never contacted her family during that time, leaving them to believe she had met with a tragic fate. The revelation that Brenda had chosen to disappear voluntarily was both a relief and a shock to her family. Her children, who had grown up believing their mother might be dead, struggled to understand her decision. Her ex-husband, Lee, expressed mixed emotions. Relieved to know she was alive, but frustrated by the years of anguish her disappearance had caused. While Brenda's reappearance answered the question of where she had gone, it left many wondering why she chose to leave without explanation. Brenda herself admitted that her actions were difficult to justify, attributing her decision to emotional distress and an overwhelming sense of helplessness at the time. Her case sparked discussions about mental health, the pressures of family responsibilities, and the ways people cope with difficult situations. While her story had a resolution, it also left lingering questions about the impact of her decision on her family and the years they spent searching for answers. Which of these disappearances do you find the most baffling, and why? Do you have your own theories about what might have happened? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. Stay informed with breaking news, captivating stories, and insightful updates by subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you're the first to know when we release new videos. See you next time.